Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Car Biz Chronicles. Thank you so much for participating to this point. It has been excellent. So in this episode, I am joined by Matt Triana of Reunion Marketing and Marty Valldejuli from Matthews Motors, also in the North Carolina area. And let me tell you guys something. We did this down at their offices in Raleigh for Reunion. And it was a great space, but realistically, this was probably the most important conversation that I had throughout all of my travels for the Car Biz Chronicles. This is about vendor-dealer relationship, okay? And some of you may have heard we're putting on our own show to help address everything you're hearing in this upcoming episode. You're going to hear Marty talk about how frustrating it is to spend $1 million, yes, that's right, $1 million with a vendor and get absolutely zero support. And it started with him being oversold on the product by the vendor. And those are the sort of things that we want to help with. Enough about our event. Let's talk more about this episode. You're going to learn what sets companies like Reunion apart from big box companies that take your millions and don't call you back. You're going to find out what it's like to be a dealer who's trying to get it all put together with very little support. You see, this is the biggest, baddest episode we've done because it's about dealers and their partners. So please, grab your pen, grab your team. Hell, if you've got vendors, grab them. They need to see this too. Sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 6 of the Car Biz Chronicles. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Car Biz Chronicles. We are here live at Reunion Marketing, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm joined by a client and friend of ours at Car Biz, also a client here at Reunion, Marty Valldejuli. Home run. Thank you, Marty. Quick background on you, my friend.
E-commerce director with Matthews Motors here. We got 3 stores, one in Clayton, one in Goldsboro, another one in Wilmington, North Carolina. Been with them for a little over 7 years.
Okay.
I grew up in the car business.
Grew up in the car business, period. Dad had stores, right?
Dad had stores. Worked my way up. I think I've done everything with F&I.
F&I. Well, I got news for you. You're missing nothing. That's the worst 9 months of my life.
I appreciate
that. It's the worst. Just keep skipping over it. If you can continue your career without it, I suggest anyone do the same. Also, Matt Triana. Is that correct, Matt? I was screwed up. Is it right? Triana. All right. Matt is officially here at Reunion. What's the position?
VP of Marketing.
VP of Marketing. And before this?
It's marketing consultant. So I started Reunion 3 years ago when the company was founded, and I was working primarily with dealers as a marketing consultant. So helping with their digital plan, going over our services every month. And then before that, I actually worked at a 33-store group here in Raleigh, and I was doing the same kind of thing for the dealer side though. So I was managing 12 stores where I was doing everything from traditional media and digital.
Really?
Yeah.
All of them?
Both sides. Yeah.
And then you told us before we went on air that there was a brief stint in the sales world. Is that correct?
Yes. Very brief stint to
which you did not enjoy.
It didn't go well. No, it did not go well.
We're not all fit for sales, my friend. It's all right. Not a big deal. Well, we're here today to be talking about all things vendors, right? And this is an interesting relationship because when I met you, Marty, you were getting to take on a pretty huge undertaking about taking all your stores under one digital umbrella.
Correct.
When you guys did it in the philosophy of it all, what was the hope, what was the reason behind a group of your size, 3 stores doing a good number of used cars? Why wasn't this idea to just try and take everything under one?
I think we looked at it to try to streamline the process.
Okay.
Looking at the digital retail platform, the way the industry is evolving. Try to bring everything in, reporting, analytics, inventory, just following everything through one rooftop.
Because one provider has all of those options, and you decided that would be the route you wanted to take.
Correct. We sat down with the owner, GM of each store, went over it, come up with strategies, weighed out pros and cons. And
how long ago was that where you guys started to embark on the journey?
It's been a little over a year, so it was probably January. About a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
That was how. So we're a year and a half. Fast forward to today.
Yeah.
Has things followed along the journey that you guys thought you'd be on a year and a half?
No. It's been a struggle.
Struggle.
Yeah, you got different to me, different companies that have all come under one company.
Doesn't make them one company. Is
Doesn't
that
make
your
them one
point?
Company, correct.
Yeah.
So you have, I think, certain companies that were good in certain areas.
Sure.
And we're running into, they might have a strength in one department. You're talking SEO, you're talking paid search, you're talking website, a little bit of reputation management, getting into video, getting into social. It's hard for one company. Now we're unfortunately figuring out
Yeah.
to handle and have a great support staff to handle all that. And employees with that experience level.
Right.
I think that's one of the issues we're running into.
I think that's one of the bigger issues they run into. And Matt, from your guys' position, how do you fight that? How do you kind of try to fight back against inexperience at a what you guys call a marketing consultant, right? A marketing consultant. How do you fight that, or how do you guys go to build that from the very beginning?
Yeah, so first thing we do is, like I said, we look at the hiring process. So when we're hiring, we're looking for people, if they're client facing, they need to be outgoing. They need to have that personality where they're going to pick up a phone before emailing or texting. Like, we want people to be on the phone, in the stores as much as possible. And in the beginning, we were looking more for dealer experience. Like, we wanted that background, but we found that they weren't always achieving the level of customer service we wanted. So then we said, all right, let's do the dealer training here. Like, we can do that. We can train on it. So we actually have a program called Dealer School that we do weekly. It's a guy that worked in a dealership and worked at our group with us. So he's training on everything you mentioned. Like, he's training on inventory, F&I. They're training on what is an RO in service. And we're training our team, even though we just do SEO, paid search, social, even though we just do those services, we're training them on how a whole dealership operates. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so it's something that it's gone really well, and we invite the entire company to it. So, like, even if you're a paid search person, they're invited to those trainings.
Because that's a big part of what Union Marketing does is automotive, right? I mean, you guys are a marketing company, but
Yes.
your main focus is automotive.
Yep.
That is not. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of vendors educating their people on the dealer side of things?
Not too many now.
Nothing?
No,
No.
that's far few in between.
Yeah, that's a very unique approach. I really like that. I can really appreciate it because I sit here and I don't hear it enough, right? I live in dealerships. I grew up in a Marty the same way. You were on the marketing side, a little bit on the sales side, but there's a difference when you're in a dealership. You know that I hate to draw that line, but there is a way to go about that. When you have marketing consultants that come on that go through that training, do you find that it's easier to retain non-automotive people and train them up in automotive than the automotive person who comes in and kind of thinks they know it? I mean, does that play into it?
Yeah. I would say we haven't really lost people, but
Yeah, you guys have pretty good retention.
Yeah, but I would say the people don't have usually a good perception of automotive when they come in.
Sure.
And once they start learning it, we have a number of people that are like, I love automotive. And
Now.
and I love working in it, but they didn't know before.
Yeah, there's stigma,
Yeah,
unfortunate
yeah,
stigma,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
Yeah.
what can we do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
nothing, you got to meet good
I don't
people
think
like
that's gonna
yourself
go
and
anywhere. Yeah.
try and change it up a little bit. Marty, when you look, you guys did you did the process all under one roof, all under one thing. A year and a half later, you're starting to see that maybe isn't working out. How are you piecing now this back together? How do you refocus after making this kind of plunge into one world? How do you emerge from it trying to do the best you can for your stores?
I think right now we're kind of backing up a little, focusing on what's working,
Okay.
trying to improve on that, trying to get rid of what's not working, looking at other options, looking at other vendors.
How do you vet vendors? What goes into your process? When Marty wants a new chat company, what does Marty do?
Reach out, do a little bit of networking, but I also like to do my homework, go in, check them out, talk with these guys, do one-on-one, phone conversations, do a group conversation, bring our team in, they'll bring their team in, and just see if it's a good fit for our strategy.
Doesn't necessarily mean the money, right?
What's that?
Doesn't necessarily mean the money.
No.
It means the fit.
Yep.
So you're willing to pay for the fit.
Correct.
So it doesn't have to be the lowest number on the
Right. We're not you talk with different vendors, they tell us what they do with all these other dealerships and other dealer groups. We're a little different. We do a lot of subprime, we do a lot of bankruptcy financing, so what they offer, the way they might build out campaigns, their strategies might be more tailored just to an OEM. So.
Because you talked about that when I first met you. You talked about this idea that the Matthews stores just didn't want to be a number.
Right.
Didn't want to be on the totem pole as one more guy.
Correct.
You've since made a transition over to remarketing on some things that you do. Do you feel the difference in how you're cared for from that humongous firm down to more of a niche firm? Is that difference you feel?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And where does that come from? Does it come from the marketing consultant that works in your account or management? I mean, how do you start to get that feeling?
I think from the management and the consultant, there's great communication going on already. I think we're about not quite a month in. I talk to the same people. I deal with the same one or two people on our account.
That's important to you, right?
Very important. I'll sit down and explain the strategy with one person that we're dealing with now. Next thing you know, they're changing hands, passing it off, and I got to reiterate the whole strategy again, whole new game plan.
And you're one guy.
One guy.
Trying to take 3 stores,
3 stores,
all the marketing,
correct,
all the vendors,
Yep.
all in your spot.
Yep.
So transitioning through it in this whole conversation, what have you learned from trying to bring everything under one roof?
Definitely bigger is not better.
Okay.
Putting I think trying to bring all your products in and relying on just one company to handle that. I just have learned that there's not enough, I don't want to say maybe it's not every vendor, there's not enough support staff, there's not enough
You and I had
knowledge
this
out
discussion.
there. Yeah.
There's not enough good people.
There's not
There's
enough.
just not.
And I think that hurts some companies because I'm going to obviously have to make my recommendation to my owner. Hey, this is where I'm running into, and he's going to say, well, why do we make this decision? We're going to have to kind of maybe pull away from that company altogether.
Right.
And I think if they can just focus on what they're good at, whether it's a website, whether it is maybe paid search, go with that. Some companies are good, put it all under one umbrella. We thought we'd be able to make it, streamline it, make it faster, easier. From the websites to the digital retail platforms, everything tying in, reporting together.
You even went as far as to CRM, right? I mean, you guys went
all in. CRM, DMS, website, paid search, SEO.
$1 million a year.
A little over, that's correct. With everything, not including, our home nets, our V-autos. Yes.
The $1 million a year, and you can't get love. You know what I mean? That's confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, when you guys look at someone in his position, because you were helping me out on this account before you were actually even on here, and one of the notes I have for you, Matt, says go above and beyond. What does that mean to you at Reunion Marketing to go above and beyond for the dealer?
Yeah, I think that we know that what they go through every day is like they've got a lot on their plates, and usually when they're reaching out to us, it's like we need this and we need it fast because there's so much going on. So for us, it starts with we do our services, but if Marty were to come to me and say, quick question for you about X, Y, Z, it doesn't even something we do. We want to be able to say, hey, we have an answer. Like, if we don't know it, we're going to get back to you. We'll find something out. We'll get you an answer. And that's part of the training I talked about. Is like we want to train on the whole scope of it. So when you call, we're giving value not just on our services but others as well.
All of them.
Yeah, and like you did with me, like it may not even be a client. And you
Right.
say, can you audit this? Can you look at this?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I do from my position with you guys. We've got a long-term relationship where I try to say, hey, look, this is something I have access to or something I deal with. Can you guys deal with it? And we were able to do the same thing for Marty. When we met him, he was transitioning website companies. We happened to know the website company he was leaving, so we said, hey, let's get all the data we possibly can for this guy because we know when the site goes away, it goes away. And that's it. And Marty's the one left holding the bag every time. And the same thing you said happened when you transferred CRM.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they just left all of your old files to go.
Yeah.
And when you switch websites, it was meta tags. Right? There were some very basic SEOs that weren't transferred from the previous.
Yeah, descriptions, a lot of it.
Yeah, and I remember texting
Content.
you going, "Is this a big deal?" And you kind of texted me back like the scarlet red letter, like, "Yeah, it's over." And I'm like, "No, it can't be over. Like, I don't want Marty. He's got to get help." But there was no help to offer because they hadn't gone through.
Yeah, it's too late at that point.
Right. So, you've probably learned a lot from that part of it.
Very educational.
Yeah, it's not the education one looks for.
No.
No. So here we are. You're in it now. You have a new vendor that you're working with. How will you hold them accountable? What is it that Marty expects? Puts the expectation on the vendor. What does that look like?
As far as accountability, just the interaction, being on the calls, emails. We'll get to the point where we look at reporting, and if we can just see a movement in our overall performance, in our analytics, in our web traffic, I'm really big on customer support, so that's huge.
It's big for you.
Yeah, and talking to these guys before we signed on, you know, I kind of compare them to other vendors. It seems like you always have a sales rep that comes and pitch you on their product and gives you a great product.
Yeah.
And then you never see that sales rep anymore. Now you're on to an account manager who has nothing to do with the conversations that you had with that sales rep.
Right.
So.
And they kind of wash their hands of it almost, don't
Yeah.
they? Like, sorry, you're in support's hands now. Have a nice day.
Right. And with these guys being hands-on, involved, having everybody in, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you haven't talked to the co-founder of your previous company that you're dealing with, as opposed to dealing with a co-founder on a regular basis.
That would be an interesting conversation.
It would be, wouldn't it? It'd be something
It's
of
sad
value.
to say they don't know what's going on, but I think that's why bigger's not always better. I don't think when you get over that point, they don't know what's going on in their company.
Completely
It's about
lost,
number,
right?
It's about volume. It's about
The churn.
Yep.
How many can we have?
That's right.
Not to mention all the OEM deals, which doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
You're a used car dealer.
Yep.
These OEM agreements mean nothing to you.
Nope.
Yet they get the majority of that. When you were talking specifically PPC, and when we first met, you said, Sean, we're very specific, man. We go after bankruptcy, we do this, we do that. And then we started to run PPC ads with the new firm. Did you find that whole discovery call that you did with that firm just kind of meant nothing or went nowhere? I just feel like you had a call where you laid out all of the plans, and then you saw the actual paid search campaigns, and they were nothing about what you talked about.
Absolutely nothing. Had nothing to do with anything we were running. I mean,
New car campaigns, is that right?
New car campaigns.
Some
Talking about new cars, I got a dealership that doesn't have service. They're advertising for service, and unfortunately, it's not real time, so I have to wait a little bit to go in and dig in and find it. By that time, it's too late. I'm already spending money, and I'm guilty. I mean, I'm a guilty party too, but I'm going to expect what I expect. But
yeah, but I don't know if I could call you the guilty party in a
guess I should've
situation where
called-
there is no new car.
I guess I
there's
should've
no
called it
service
sooner.
department. I mean, Matt, if this is your company and you all of a sudden find out that this happens, what is your company's reaction to running campaigns for something he doesn't offer or vehicles that aren't even on his line? I mean, would it happen here, Matt? I guess it's likely to happen anywhere, but why do you think things like that?
I think you mentioned it on the onboarding. It starts there, like the onboarding call and that handoff. And I mean, I can see it happening there with just like you're talking churn and burn. So they've got them set up a certain way, and they probably just duplicated the same campaign.
everything.
And it's
Right?
It was.
Yeah, it's
When we
just-
looked at the search terms, everything was exactly
Yeah.
there.
All three stores, all different geos.
Yeah.
Yep.
All different, like you go after different customers, right? You were
Yep.
saying this store does a little bit heavier secondary, whatever.
One has military town, the other one's close to an Air Force base. Here we're close to, it's a different market, so we're doing different landing pages, different to drive traffic to those pages, and it
That never happened.
didn't come to life. We're still working on the landing pages.
We are. And we're still working on some SEO
Yeah.
and some basics. We've got a bunch of GA issues. And again, when you run into Google Analytics issues, it sucks because we can't do anything.
Right.
Right? I mean, last
Yeah,
month's
nothing going
data
on.
is
It's
shot
gone.
because we had a 3% bounce rate. So we know something's broken, right, Matt? I mean, it's an obvious indicator.
Yeah.
And we found out that it was a bunch of Google tag managers with a company that doesn't even believe in Google
Yeah.
Analytics. So it's even more confusing. But when you see it, Matt, how do you guys kind of isolate and dig in to fix those issues? Just let's talk about when we saw the 3% bounce rate and we kind of sent the flag out. What does Reunion do next on behalf of the client?
Yeah, so we'll pull together, and we'll probably put it in an email just so we have documentation. We'll pull all together and say, this is your problem. And we'll screenshots, make it as easy for anyone on support side to understand this is exactly why this is happening. We'll send it over, and we'll probably follow up with a call and say, hey, this is why your 3% bounce rate is happening. We've seen it 10 times before or more. We know that. And then we'll pretty much say, here's the information, here's how we're going to approach it, and then we got to just hope that they'll...
Hope that the vendor that you're about to do it with doesn't.
Yes, yeah. Because, I mean, there's only so much we can do on our end, too, so...
But not because your client doesn't allow, because the back end, because the website
Yes.
company, the provider
Yes.
doesn't allow you the access that you could do.
Correct.
But if you had more access, you could do more. Is that right? Is that fair to say? Or no?
But yeah, but it even goes all the way to how they're structured in the beginning. Like, if more access would probably break things too. So it was poor, I'd say, not set up properly in the beginning.
Got you. So the sites weren't set up for Google Analytics properly in the beginning, and we've never taken time to change that. So now we just keep putting tag manager on top of tag manager,
Yeah.
even if it directly negatively affects their client.
Yes.
That's got to feel good.
Yeah. And it's bad because, I mean, who's supposed to discover this stuff? I mean, you would think.
But I will. on the 3rd of the following month, like I'm not going to know it mid-month. That's not who I am.
That's the sad part.
Right.
If I don't find it and I don't get with you guys,
right.
It doesn't get discovered, it seems like.
Right. And imagine if you didn't have, this sounds really self-imploring, but imagine if you didn't have us and you didn't have partners. Like, where would Marty be right now if he didn't have the partners that are sitting in the room? How frustrating would your life be? What decisions would you be able to come to?
I don't probably be able to come to much. I wouldn't have nothing to look at.
But you have no time.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. They need partners. Because none of us exist, you, me, the company he's referring to, or anybody else, without him. Yet it seems like you're like the last person to be considered with these big firms about, well, how's Marty going to feel? And this idea that you're a small store, I'm sorry, $1 million is small nothing.
Right.
If Reunion had $1 million client, not that they would be put higher on the list, but there'd be a touch more like focus, right, than the guy who spends $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year with you.
Yeah.
The guy spends $1 million. You're going to want to make sure everything is pretty perfect. Matt, how can dealers who are out there dealing with vendors who don't have you, don't have me, don't have a Marty, what's one thing you'd say to them when dealing with vendors that's important from not only your time at Reunion, but when you were kind of the vendor management for the lead side of things? Yeah. What is one or two things that's important about vetting a vendor, understanding about a vendor that you think is knowledgeable for these guys?
I'd say cut out the shiny objects, the fluff.
You guys both brought that up today. It must be my podcast was running around the Reunion offices here.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Shiny object syndrome is no good for anyone.
No, and I think that really just and not coming in even with unrealistic expectations, but coming into like you said, incremental change. Lay out the goals, and don't let them give you a glamorous pitch. I would ask for honestly references. I'd ask for references. Test, and so like one thing that we always would recommend at the other stores I worked with were we wouldn't go all in. We'd be like, you need to prove yourself here, and then also too talk about transparency. Hey, if we go with you, what do we own? Do we have access to everything? Can I call you? And who am I going to talk to? Is it going to be that same person every time?
But this goes back to the AdWords discussion, because when I first met you, I said, all right, well, let's look at AdWords, and you said, I don't own it. It's not mine. It's someone else's. Now you do own it.
Now we do own it.
Correct? And the help of Reunion tied that together to the GA. Correct. Granted, even though the data is slightly compromised given the bounce rates and all of these things, we can still make educated thoughts around what we see, right? I mean, if the data was compromised in May and in June, then looking at both side by side, we can still say something, right? Because we don't want to make it a waste of nothing. Marty, when you look at data, what's the most important thing for you? Is it leads? Is it users? Is it what is it? Not that I don't know how much you look at GA anymore now that you have guys like me and him around.
I do look at the GA, but since we made the transition, I don't know how great it is. That's what I'm relying on you guys for.
Right.
Obviously, we like lead count. I like the quality of leads and conversions.
Quality leads and conversions.
Yeah.
You're stopping yourself short of selling cars, which I feel like is your responsibility, not theirs.
Right. Selling cars is definitely what it's. What we got to do.
Yeah, but that's a store's job, right? It's not really a marketer's job.
I got to bring these guys relevant traffic, good leads, quality customers on different levels.
And that's the biggest part of it.
Correct.
When you have the changes now, do you find yourself being gun shy to making changes given this whole thing, or are you just saying, I've learned enough now? I feel even more, aware of what could happen.
I would say a little gun shy, but I've worked with a couple of different vendors over the last couple of years, and it seems like as I'm narrowing it down after this experience, they all try to give you that shiny object.
That big sales pitch.
Yeah.
Right? Where everything's going to be glamorous.
Everything's going to be great. It's all going to tie in together. It's all going to work.
Did anything in the sales pitch come together a year and a half later? Anything? No. I want to hear any highlight I can get.
Unfortunately, no. No.
You guys were sold, and you guys were sold at a big event, right? Where these things happen.
We're still getting hit, from the DMS side. Still trying to put all that together. My poor accounting offices are still a mess.
Not only because of the hurricane, unfortunately,
but
the hurricane made it worse because it was already an issue.
Yeah, but we're just looking at on financial side, just what the owner wants to look at from the install from the DMS side. It's been a tough transition all the way around.
So the promise came up slightly short a year and a half.
Very much so.
And like I said, you were sold at a big event. You were sold at one of the big digital dealers. You're going to the next one up here in Vegas.
Yep.
What are you looking for?
I like to go out, network, meet with people, go talk to the vendors we're currently using, seeing what they're saying, what are they promising now, and see what I can take away from that. See if they're still throwing the same things out there that they sold us. It was a good idea. It all sounds good, you know, when you're out there and listening to it. But yeah, when I go to digital, it's a lot of it to me is networking, seeing what's working for some dealers that are in our shoes in different markets. But every market's different, every dealership's different. But yeah, I like to go out and talk to the current companies we're obviously using. Then I might have 3 or 4 companies we're looking to gear towards, and go and probably do a demo with them.
And you use it as education. You go along.
Absolutely.
And you go to the breakouts, or do you just like to walk around the vendor pool?
I do the breakouts as well.
So you learn there as well.
Yep.
You hear it as well.
Yep.
We've got Dave will be out there from Reunion Marketing. He'll be speaking at Digital Dealer,
Awesome.
which will be exciting. And those are, again, that's why we like going to those events, so that we can learn as well.
Yep.
Matt, from a vendor side, and I know you've been to a few. When you go out to these shows, is it about kind of just networking, educating the same way, just trying to meet dealers, or do you guys also look at competition of your space and vendors, etc.?
I would say we use it. Well, we'd like to use it to meet with our current clients. So any that are out there, like we definitely want to do that. And then really, it's for education. I'd say, not even for me when I'm there, it's not necessarily to learn what everyone else is saying. I like to keep a pulse on that, but also for like when Dave's speaking, like what's he saying, and push that message out, because I think it's strong when we're talking about like, the data and how it's important. So for us, it's a little twofold, but at the end of the day, I think we're always trying to say what's best for the dealership is what we're putting out there.
What's best for the dealership?
And that usually resonates well because it's honest and it's what we care about.
And moving forward with that's what we all hope to do. Marty, when you get references, someone says, here's the new vendor, here's a reference.
Mm-hmm.
Are you someone who actually calls a reference, or do you just take a reference and put it in the trash?
We do call a reference.
You do.
And we try to not always get the good reference. We want the guy that canceled on you. We want the bad references.
I've never thought about asking. Do they give them to you?
I think we've had 1 or 2 that might have thrown one out there for us.
Because you're right.
Usually it's the sales guy coming out there, so it's probably not in his
I'm
best
sitting there thinking, I don't know that I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But that goes back to transparency. If
That's
they're not
right.
willing to share with you, then
Yeah.
maybe I'm not as interested in dealing with you.
You know, what happened? What was the breakdown at? Maybe it was something we could live with and avoid going forward. Maybe it's just not a good match for us. So I think
That's important.
it's a
Because in your
fair
position,
question.
to ask that question will automatically show someone's transparency.
Yeah.
Or they'll be like, you know what, I'm out. I'm good. I don't need to talk to this guy about this. I'm going to move on.
Yeah. Too many skeletons in the closet. Yeah.
Too many skeletons in the closet.
I mean, they're all going to give you good references. I mean, why would most of them want to give you a bad reference?
Right. Well, you know why, though? Here's how I feel about it. I'm a huge baseball nut.
Right.
And the best baseball player ever, best batting average ever, he only hit the ball 4 out of 10 times. He failed 60% of the time, and he's the best hitter in the history of baseball. How's that happen? Well, because you gotta make sure you understand what's expected, and what's expected of a baseball player is a 300 average. If you can hit 400, you're unbelievable. Dealers, all I ever hear about from a vendor is everything's a home run, everything's great. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah,
and I admit to my mistakes more now than I did when I was younger. Obviously, a lot of that is because I have a wife who's honest with me and tells me when I do wrong. But from your side, how do you guys know? Obviously, you're going to hear it from a dealer. But are there things internally that kind of poke their head out and say, whoa, we got to get ahead of this before this becomes an issue at our company?
Yeah, I'd say
Support, I guess, is number one that I would say to you guys.
like client-facing support.
Yeah.
That's another thing that if there's an issue, so say specifically with like a client, like that's something we bring up. Like we never try to hide anything because you're right, you're gonna find it. They're gonna hear about it. So like even working with you, one thing we do for every review, what are the things that are not going well?
Correct. Well, that's what I asked you for,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I think a lot of companies wonder, Sean, why are you asking us for the bad, right? Well, it's because I want the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we're not going to get better if everyone comes in and just shoots rainbows in the sky. That's not the way life is,
Yeah.
right? Especially day to day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with a hurricane, for God's sakes. You didn't wake up last month thinking that was going to be impacting your September business,
Nope.
but here it is,
Yep.
right? And life doesn't always go perfectly. If you hear a dealer or if you hear a vendor say to you, yeah, man, no, you can ask for a bad reference, but we don't have any. Is that kind of like a red flag for you where you go, how's that possible?
I'd say sure. I mean, even from a consumer standpoint, when you look at reviews online and you see, 5.0s from 300 reviews.
Fake.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
It's hard to do.
A 5.0
You're
is...
going to upset somebody. I mean, whether you're a vendor, whether you're a consumer, I'm sure there's going to be a reference that they could give us that things didn't work out. Whether they dropped the ball on a website or a SEO or a paid search campaign or rep management.
Right. They
Sure,
dropped the ball
somebody
somewhere.
like it. Yeah, they had to.
And to be fair, we're in an interesting position at Car Biz because we sit between dealer and vendor, kind of as I am now. But we also are able to say sometimes it's the vendor's fault. Sometimes it's the dealer's fault. There is a joint responsibility to the end goal.
Right.
And I think it's really easy for you to blame him.
Mm-hmm.
I find that only the really, really selfish vendors will blame dealers. I've heard it though. It's totally, I wish I could sit here and say it doesn't happen, but there are vendors who are like, well, that dealer. The thing is, they're not wrong when they say that because the dealer may have never gotten back to him, returned a phone call. I mean, Matt, come on. Does every dealer just pick up the phone call when Matt calls?
No.
No. I mean, I'd like to think Marty picks it up every time he sees my name. It might be the opposite. It might be like, it's Sean. I'm going to put that to ignore. But the point is that kind of quick response is what makes the difference for me.
Yeah.
Is speed something Reunion focuses on their client-facing side?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we put hard timelines on it.
Really?
Yeah. So
Talk me through what does that mean?
So if you call and we're in a meeting, they have to get back to you within an hour with a phone call. So 1 hour, they're returning your call. Email, we say within 2, but as fast as possible.
Okay.
So anything over that is too long.
Because you guys do love your meetings. Here,
Well,
you love it.
So our marketing.
Except for Mondays. That's all day.
Our
All
marketing,
day.
yeah, we try. We've done a good job of our marketing consultants. We're keeping them out as many meetings as possible. So,
Okay, you are.
Yeah.
I can always get a hold of Nikki.
Yeah,
You
so-
guys,
yeah.
maybe not so
If you
much.
call
but
me,
Nikki, she's
maybe not. But I'm also not.
No, but I'll always get the text.
Yes.
In a meeting. It's pre-filled right into Matt's phone. He hits it.
Exactly.
But that's because you're trying to make sure that you're looking over everything. I joke about your guys'
Yeah.
meetings, but you're doing things in them. It's not a meeting to have a meeting.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Which, that's why I got out of corporate America, because it's just meetings about meetings about meetings. In the car business, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Car business, we meet to yell at you, praise you, or get ready for Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that fair? I mean, those are the 3
All
meetings.
right, yeah.
And the yelling meetings are typically not nearly as fun as the Saturday meetings.
Yeah,
Sometimes those are the same meeting,
It
right?
happens. It
And
does.
so you deal with, when you go to deal with a vendor and Matt talks about response times, that's important to you.
Very much.
Right?
Absolutely.
And how many tell you this expectation that Matt just told you up front? Because I feel like it's very few.
Very few.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we ask for as we're vetting out vendors. What's your support team like?
Will you have your own rep? Like
Yep.
that's all part of your question and answer?
Absolutely.
And someone says no, you call into the hotline.
Right.
How does that make Marty feel?
Not good.
Not good.
Yeah, you got to sit on hold, talk to somebody that knows nothing about what's going on in your dealership and your campaigns, your strategies. So that's
Not helpful.
no.
Helpful. And you gotta leave a message, have them call you back.
And wait for them. And as dealers, I try to be as mindful. Make sure I get back to you guys on phone calls, get back to you guys on emails. I mean, we have a responsibility, so that is huge.
I like to hear that though.
Yeah.
I like to hear a dealer say it's important to get back to us.
Yeah.
Because I don't necessarily feel like that, and that's okay. Like my operations director always says to me, Sean, because I get like, man, I haven't heard from so and so in like 4 weeks. What do you think's up? And he'll look at me, he'll go, hey dude, this is our world right here. This ain't theirs. So like our 40 stores, that's all we're worried about. These dudes are worried about all this other stuff. So just relax. And but I pride myself on being available. Now my company, different than this company. You've never talked to anyone at my company but me until you met my CFO today.
Right.
That's it. Right. So that's different in how I do my thing, but that's how we set it up. You guys do it similarly because your agents only work with that client, right? And you have a max on your agents, I feel like you and I have talked in the past, where you want to make sure they don't get over that threshold.
Yeah, so just the max is a number of variables.
Yeah,
size of
what people
store,
can handle.
But it'll all come down to, are they hitting the expectations of response time? If they can't respond as fast, then they probably have too many.
And how are you seeing this? Is this CRM? I mean, I'm being honest with you when I say that.
We do time tracking and we're able to look into this. So but also too just by having conversations with them. I mean, the marketing consultants are meeting weekly with their managers, talking through priority and issues they're having, and they're training on how to handle that. And so they would be the one that would say, hey, this person's got too much on their plate, or they're struggling to get ahead.
Got it.
So we're constantly monitoring that.
Monitoring the size of the accounts, what happens
Yeah.
with all that. Because I think that's right?
Yeah.
It's an important part for the
Absolutely.
dealer side, because then he feels like he's always getting the support he needs.
Yep.
Right? And that's something that plays into it for you. So you knew, hey, this is going to be my marketing agent. That's just the way it is. I think I've been with you guys since your inception. I think my company's rolled over, I want to say only like 1 or 2 marketing agents in our history together, which to me is an impressive number. Very, very impressive number. One of the other things I like about Reunion, Marty, you tell me if you like it too. I like the fact that I don't have to email and open some sort of a ticket.
Yeah.
Or some sort of a system has to be open, and then I've got to track it through, and I've got to watch the process. I don't know why I'm responsible for watching your work. It's very much like self-checkout for me. I feel like I should get a discount at self-checkout. Because I'm doing your job. If you don't need that person, then why am I not being paid and compensated for registering my own groceries?
Check out and bag your own stuff. Yeah.
Is that what I
Same
mean?
concept,
So
yeah.
if you had to do it on your own and you didn't have the support, then it would be whatever. But if you have someone, then that should you shouldn't have to spend as much time.
Yeah.
And that's what you find with again, you're only a month in. I think you'll find that to be even more the case. Marty, when you hear about a vendor turnover, right? Because gosh, I know you've dealt with it. How does a dealer deal with yet another rep changeover? Because it doesn't happen at Reunion very often, but I know it happens everywhere else.
As far as having just a
Yeah, what do? Do you just have to go back through and have the same conversation
same
from day one?
conversation, start it all over again, pick up where you left off.
This is just like calling DirecTV when I tell the first lady all my problems.
And they
She
pass you off
transfers me,
before
right?
Yeah, before you want to cancel, they want to send you to somebody else and re-explain your.
And that chick picks up and goes, well, what's the problem? It's like, well, why do you think I'm in the
Yeah.
saving department, right? Do you think I'm here for my health? No, I'm here because we have a problem.
Yep. Very frustrated.
Very frustrating.
Yeah.
So the changeover, and not that these guys can do a ton about that from a company standpoint. I mean, if people are going to quit their jobs, they're going to quit their jobs.
Sure.
All right.
It's gonna happen.
But how they handle it for you, I think, is important.
Yeah.
Right. What do you expect when a vendor changes over? Do you expect management to reach out and explain it? Like, how's the walkthrough go for you?
Absolutely. I would think they would come in, explain to us, hey, we had a transition, we got so-and-so either moving up in a company. We hear a lot of that.
Sure.
You know, so-and-so is leaving this department, selling to another department. This is what's going on. They'll bring them in, sit them in on maybe 1 or 2 roundtable conversations.
Transitions.
Yeah. Let them know what's going on, where we're at, what we're going to, as a dealer, what we should expect. And then we'll voice what we should hopefully see and expect going forward.
And that's right then and there. You put all the expectations on the table.
Yeah.
You're
lay
someone who's
everything out.
very clear about their expectations, at least with me. Are you that way with all vendors? You say, look, I expect this
Yep.
from you. Nothing more, nothing less. This is it.
Yep.
That's how you do it.
Yep.
Because you and I have been through, we made some changes to some of the big 3 accounts, right? Some of the Auto Trader stuff, Cars.com, whatever. When you had those deals, we were looking at it, we were making decisions based on data.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying. We weren't saying how we feel, it was data. Would you recommend that's what most people do, is try to approach their data and try to understand it better?
I would say so. I mean, sure.
Because it's a big part of it.
Yeah, look at the data month over month, year over year. You know, it's changing. Customer behavior is changing. We get more leads from some vendors than others, so you can't really just base it off leads.
Right, but the idea that all 3 of your stores are the same is false.
Yeah.
The idea that all vendors that work at Clayton will work at Wilmington, that will work at Goldsboro is
No.
false.
Correct. Yeah, that doesn't.
But when they come to you, they say to you, Marty, it's in this store, it's good for this store, it's good for that store.
Sure, they do.
But you know
Yeah.
that's not right.
Nope.
And Matt, when someone like Marty, if he said to you, hey Matt, we're cool, we'd like to bring you in 1 out of 3. Does Matt view that as the ultimate challenge? Or does he say, well, where are the other 2? Like, why am I not getting all 3? How do you view that as a vendor?
Internally we view that as an opportunity. It's prove our value for the one. They're going to want to work with us for the others. I wouldn't say we view that as that's just a challenge. And that happens actually. I think a lot of times that will come up and they'll say, well, prove to us. And it's okay, good. And we actually internally, like the person working on the account, they know that. They're like, hey, if I do a good job, there's a chance I can work with some more. And that kind of gives a little motivation to them. And it's something too that we'll just check on. Like, how's the other one's doing? Anything you can provide? Can you provide value for it, even though we're not contracted to do it?
But that's what I get worried about, right?
Yeah.
That's my biggest fear for guys in this position is like Marty's got one store and he's got the Wilmington store. But then all of a sudden Matt's phone's ringing. He's like, so I got this problem down in Goldsboro and I've got this problem over here. And you start kind of having to do work for free, right? Where do you draw that trying to get new stores but trying to go above and beyond for the client?
I would say just making it clear up front. Like
Expectations,
yeah. And that's what I think you and I have done a good job of saying, hey, this is what they need. Can you do it? Yeah, we can do that. And so if it were ever to be a case where we're spending too much time, we do time tracking. So you can't, the person internally would be like administrative work, you know, we'd be like, who's this? And it's like, oh, it's a client we don't even have. And like we could see into that, so they know, like if it's not a client that we have, that they need to be upfront with management or even with the dealership saying, hey, if you want this level of service, you need to talk to our sales team or we need to get something in motion.
I was going to say, here we go. This is all the way back to the sales team, right? I was going to say, the reason we got 1 out of 3 is because Chad's weak. He couldn't close the other 2, right? I mean, oh no, look at you. He's like, you wouldn't say that, though. All right, it wasn't Chad, it was the dealer wanted to make the deal. But you dealt with Chad.
Yeah.
You dealt with the sales guy.
Yeah, I did.
Do you feel like that much changed from what Chad told you was going to happen at his company to what happened now?
No,
No.
I don't.
No. And I think that's, I mean, again, it could be set up. He's a co-founder. He looks at his company as we own it, right? And I don't think the guy working at the company you're dealing with now, getting paid $18 an hour, cares about the company the way that these guys care about their company.
Absolutely not.
So size size does not matter. It is not great for this discussion. You don't want to be bigger is better because you feel like you're disconnected because there's not enough good help.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Let me ask you this: if you had to do it over, you're doing it over currently.
Doing it over.
You're
Slowly
doing
but
it
surely.
over currently.
Slowly but
Marty,
surely.
what are you hoping to get as the end result when this whole thing is over?
Gosh, I just want to see everything come together and actually function. I want to see it all work, you know, as a whole.
These are such basic wants.
And I don't think there's, you know, we talked about over the last couple of years, trying to bring everything together. Even on the accounting side, we have different vendors, a vendor here, a vendor there. I don't think that's a bad thing after all this. I think if you can have a vendor that's great for your chat, and you have a vendor that's great for your website, and you have a vendor that can do your SEO and your PPC, maybe tie those together, you know, I think
it's okay to keep them separate.
That's okay. I think I've seen it, and I've done it in the past, and it works. To try to figure out all these dynamics and just the data, the feeds, you would think they'd all come together because they're all one company, but I have yet to see it work from my CRM reporting to my DMS feeds to price syndication. I mean, you would think my DMS would match what goes out in my inventory management pricing.
You would.
And it just...
They haven't. Because
it
what happens
happens
is...
over time, but it's trial and error.
Well, right, but what happens is they're so worried about the next acquisition, they haven't even integrated the current acquisition.
That's right.
And that's what I find is the problem, right? So they go out and buy a paid search company out of one of my favorite paid search companies ever out of the Mountain States called Haystack Media. This is back 8-9 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they were awesome. They were right out our back door. They were so cool. I was running stores in Colorado. They were great. And they got acquired by the behemoth. The guys I dealt with were gone. They were like, well, we didn't, the guys who wanted the company sold it. So all the support staff that I dealt with didn't want to be a part of that transition, so they bolted.
Right.
When you have support staff that you deal with that you like, do you find you always kind of tie yourself and give your vendor an additional opportunity if you're getting along and have a good relationship with that marketing consultant?
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense, though.
It does.
That seems fair.
Yeah.
You do it in a human element, right? You do it for a friend of yours.
Yeah.
So you give people a shot as long as you feel like they're working with you,
Yep.
trying to make you better.
Sure.
I feel the same.
Sure do.
Well, we're going to get to the end of this whole thing. So what I like to do at the end of every show is I like to give a couple of takeaways for the audience to have. My 2 takeaways, and I hope I don't steal any here. So I know we're all writing things down. Matt doesn't have to. He's just got it all up here. But I have bigger is not better, and I have aligning your process. I think it's important that aligning your process come. So bigger is not better. That's for our dealer friends. But aligning the process and understanding retail is for our vendor friends. Matt, dealer school. That sounds very cool.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have known ahead of time because I could have prepared curriculum I could have come in today and done for you. Because I think it's so important that you continue to do that. So what do you take away from today's discussion that you think dealers just have to hear?
I think just Marty talked about it a few times. Was just you dealers also just lay the expectations out up front. Let's make sure you're a vendor and you align on it. Get it in writing. Agree that this is what I want. This is what we can provide, and make sure there's no sloppy handoff from sales. And then really the other thing too is just not every store. I mean, even though it's easy to think they're all the same, they're not. And like your example, you have 3 stores here in North Carolina. They're not that far from each other, but they're all different. And so,
Vastly different in their approaches.
Yeah. And then that same thing with vendors too. It's like all vendors aren't the same either. So,
No, and just don't accept standard stock.
Yeah.
You know, expect to be treated differently.
Yeah.
Don't just be a number. Be someone who actually is cared about.
Yeah.
Marty, you are the dealer in the room, so it's important that we hear from you last. What is it that dealers need to take away from our brief 40-minute vendor-based discussion today?
From a dealer standpoint, I would say definitely do your homework. We talked about it, but bigger is not better. I'm very competitive. I like to see what my competition's doing, but I wouldn't try to mirror what you're doing with your competitor when you talk about vendors if you see them using certain providers. So I would reach out to them, demo them.
Ask
Ask
for
for
the good and the bad.
Where the breakdown go, and definitely get involved in that. Call that dealer principal, the e-commerce guy, and see what happened. Because you might be able to work around that and find a unique fit for your store, your dealer group. But just definitely gotta dig in, get what went wrong,
Don't make the same mistakes.
Don't make the
basically.
same mistakes. Yeah.
Look at the provider and move on from there.
Yeah.
Well,
Each vendor has its own strengths, so don't be afraid to pick and choose your battles.
and don't feel like you have to get it all under one rooftop.
Yeah.
And don't go chasing that shiny object down the street because it
It's-
probably doesn't pay.
Nope.
No,
Nope.
it doesn't. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And everybody, thanks a lot for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.